Hey there, guys, and welcome to a what if that isn't a what if. That's right, you've been clickbaited. Ha! Get wrecked, grub. Haha. Anyway, so some of you might be familiar with the What If for Karku Dojo. After all, I too do various amounts of Dragon Ball what ifs. However, he also did some Dragon Ball X Pokemon videos. Well, it looks like he took those videos down. I saw those as they were being released. And I'm going to do something similar here. First off, I love Dragon Ball. There isn't a day I don't think about it, to be honest. But in more recent years, I've been pretty obsessed with Toho, ignoring the, well, obvious reasons. Toho's lore and world is pretty spectacular. And one of my favorite characters is Yukari Yakumo. Wait, what's that? Hold on. I see. I'm supposed to stutter mommy for a solid 10 seconds. Well, sorry friends from the gaming channel plugin, but I've changed. I am not a man who sees a person like Yukari and stutters mummy on accident. Sorry. I know. You like to go through misery. You like to see me go through misery. Not you. You like to see me go through misery every time I see mommy. Anyhow, I wanted to do a video on what if Yukari was in Pokemon. However, rather than a story, it's more so just me telling you what would happen. Or, well, I guess that isn't even true either. It's really hard to describe what I'm doing with this video, aside from telling you what teams, plural, I think she'd have. So, out of the way, let me tell you why Yukari Yakumo would be a Pokemon master. I'm probably butchering her name. I know her first one's Yukari. The Yakumo part, I'm not exactly sure. Japanese to English is really scratchy. And, yeah. Enjoy the video. Before we get started, I think we need to talk about Yukari. Because here's the thing with Toho. First off, that side of porn is not nearly as popular out here in the West as it is in Japan. At least in my experience. Maybe I'm just a really unlucky Toho fan. Second off, the fandom likes to give characters personalities and traits. And this isn't 100% bad, as some characters aren't very fleshed out. But Yukari has 3 pages on her Wikipedia page for a reason. Yukari Yakumo is a legendary yokai, able to manipulate boundaries. She is the gap yokai, despite being a unique species. She's extremely intelligent and well-informed and prefers to manipulate others rather than doing something herself. However, she's known to sleep all day. She only really lives for enjoyment. She is also a bit of a shut-in. However, she is extremely powerful, being the keeper of the Great Hakare Barrier, and yet she keeps toying with her opponents. She even claims that shooting, cutting, stabbing, hitting, or killing her is useless. A pretty bold claim. Perhaps she really can beat Goku. Although, as she said earlier, she normally manipulates others to do things for her, so her objectives are very rarely clear. So maybe she just manipulate Goku into defeating himself. Tell him that not even Goku can beat Goku. I don't know. This also isn't mentioning her boundary abilities, which is basically some Slime Saya level hacks bullshit. No one here will get that reference, but man, it fits so well in my head. Also, as said earlier, she is extremely intelligent and considered superhuman in terms of intelligence. This is especially with numbers, to the point where she could determine when Ursa Major would devour the North Star instantaneously. But ignoring that, she doesn't just manipulate others at random. She determines who can do her job, and she is certain of it every time. Let's not also mention she started a war with the Lunarians by herself, and ended it more or less by herself. She is indeed a big brain. Another thing to take note of is that she can be the heroine or the villain of the story, but in most cases she's actually a good person. Sure, she's a bit of a menace, and she takes every negative comment in stride, but when it comes to the safety of her home, even if she manipulates boarders and other people that do so, she makes certain that it's safe. Now, to determine Yukari's Pokemon team. Now, because it's anime logic, we're not giving specific levels or moves or abilities, etc. But I will be explaining every Pokemon on the list and why I think it fits. Now, for the sake of what will likely be Yukari only, I shall be giving her 3 teams. This will not happen in the future with other characters, unless I deem it necessary. But for Yukari, I just feel like there's so many things that can work with her involving Pokemon, given the idea I wanted to go with her, that I thought 3 teams would be better than just 1. So, please, try to follow along. Our first team would consist of Ninetales and a Skitty. This is because Yukari has a Shikigami named Ran Yakumo, and Ran has a Shikigami named Chen Yakumo, who is a 2-tailed cat spirit. However, since Chen is quite young and weak, her Pokemon should be considered with this. This reason her first team has only 2 Pokemon is simple. Yukari doesn't like to take things seriously or do them herself. This is more of a, I carry these Pokemon on me because they're my favorite, rather than a, I want to win. The next team is as follows. Mega Lopunny, Hoopa, Confined, Solego, and Mr. Mime. So you might be thinking, this chick is stacked, but let me just explain, starting with Mega Lopunny. Yukari is extremely smart, and in the fandom, she is portrayed as someone who... I wrote smart instead of strong. Both are correct, I guess. I'm gonna leave this one in the video. That was kind of a bad mess up. Anyway. In the fandom, Yukari is portrayed as someone who dislikes being called old and ugly because she's quite fond of her age and beauty. Mega Lopunny is, she's a very strong fighting type. Hoopa is reminiscent with Yukari's ability to open gaps, causing mischief and escaping in a gap. Hoopa is entirely the same. It is far too perfect not to give her Hoopa at the very least. Solego, Mr. Mime, Solego, and Mr. Mime both refer to barriers and boundaries. Both of these Pokemon control invisible barriers which protects things. I guess Solego is more like passing through barriers, but it still works in this case. Plus, again, Yukari is extremely powerful. Speaking of which, now this is a team I thought of which is she wins. With Yukari's intelligence and manipulation of others, I can completely see this happening. But again, this is the best case scenario for Yukari as a Pokemon trainer, so take it with salt. Arceus, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, Hoopa, Unbound, and Ultra Solego. The 4 creation gods represent the ultimate barriers: life, death, time, and space. I don't think I need to tell you more about Yukari's barriers for that to be understandable. It would make sense for her to catch these Pokemon, as well, being as extremely powerful as they are, and representing the top tiers of strength that Yukari represents in her own universe. As for the other 2, they're just powered up versions of her previous Pokemon. And given Team Galactic's plan, and her enormous IQ, I can see her getting those 4 Pokemon, playing everyone like a damn fiddle, until the last moment, when she steals the Pokemon right from under Cyrus's nose. Although, Yukari wouldn't use these Pokemon unless the planet was endangered. After all, that's a lot of work, and she'd rather just have someone else deal with it. So I've told you what team she would end up having, and I told you about Yukari Yakumo. So, what else do I have to tell you? Well, pretty simple. I'm here to tell you why Yukari would be a Pokemon Master. Or, in other words, simplify what I've told you below. Yukari with her connections would have information on everything across the world, as well as having access and opportunities that no other trainer would have, allowing her to travel across the world and catching Pokemon no other trainers would. Or, not Every trainer would. With her intellect, Yukari would quite easily increase her Pokemon's strength and dominate her opponents. And when it comes to her serious team, any Pokemon that would seem too weak would just get left in the PC or at home under one of her workers' care. She would be able to become champion quite easily. It isn't even a contest. However, at some point it would become far too tedious for Yukari. She doesn't care if they're staying at the Indigo Plateau and challenging challenger after challenger. Especially worrying about the four gods having a hissy fit, it just made life too hard. So instead of doing that, she guides someone else to be champion from the background. A young girl with blonde hair and a gibble. Thank you for watching. This is my first time doing one of these videos and I'm not quite sure how to format them. So, if I do one of these again, leave some advice down below. Maybe I'll do other characters. I did this video specifically for my next project because, as you guys know, I like to do things outside the box. But sometimes I do things similar to most of the community. What do I mean? Well, I'm pulling the thumbnail on the screen now.